Air Canada, Flight 1133.
Yeah, so I just came back from this trip to Vancouver. I was away for about 5 days, and this trip, I've gone on a few trips like this. So basically, as part of the coaching that I've taken over the last few years, we go away twice a year for a retreat. So it's a hard thing to fully describe, and that's almost why I've asked that we set this up like this, so that you get to see me fully explain it to you, and hopefully it comes across. So let's dive into it. So these retreats are sort of under the umbrella of what's called Business from Within, which is the coaching group I'm part of. But on the trip, we literally don't talk about business at all. So it's like a business retreat that has nothing to do with business. It has all to do with our personal growth, our personal lives, and it goes like deep. And the reason it's so powerful is that we don't really have a space in our lives to go deep, right? In a sense, we're always talking on the surface. We're always, dealing with problems, and it's almost easy to stay on the topic of business because there's so much to do. We want to grow, we want to do something more in our lives, make more money, be more successful, all of that. But this retreat is a space where you step back and you really look within yourself of what matters to you, what is affecting you, and in a roundabout way, it eventually helps you in your business. Because if you are a more fulfilled person, if you are more connected to who you are, then when you speak to a client, when you speak to a coworker, right, or one of your employees, you are a person that's more present, and there's something really attractive about that. Because so many people are just distracted, confused, sort of all over the place, and to see someone that's really connected to who they are as a person, what they want to accomplish in their lives, it's different, and it stands out. And what I found is that over the last 2 years that I've been doing this, I've been going away about twice a year. Each time I get something out of it that I find profound. It's game-changing to me, right? And if I were to share them to you, you may not fully grasp the significance because it's deeply personal, right? It's something that truly it comes from where I'm at in my life. So I will share a story just so you get some context about what's involved. So not the last retreat, but the one prior to that. This was prior to the lockdowns. This was about January or February of last year. We went to Las Vegas, and at that retreat, I would consider to be a deep realization. Part of what has been driving me the last few years in terms of wanting to succeed, wanting to do more, right? Wanting to create wealth, a piece of it came from this feeling of, I wanted my dad to be proud of me. I wanted his recognition, his pride, and I didn't feel I was receiving it from him because he's not the type of person to vocalize it. He's not the type of person to just tell me, I'm proud of you, right? One of the realizations I had is that he is proud of me. And this came about through, there wasn't like an exercise that helps us to realize our dad is proud of us or anything like that, but it's just the atmosphere, the environment, the group, the discussions we have allows you to look within and to find those realizations, right? So in that realization I had, it became clear my dad was proud of me. Because one of the things that I noticed is that he likes to drive Uber, right? So he drives people around, and he tells me this after the fact. He talks about me to like every single passenger that's in his car. He gives my business card to them, and he's like always telling them, hey, you should watch Koukun's YouTube videos. If you're thinking about buying or selling home, you should talk to Koukun, right? So he's like constantly like almost trying to be my advocate, trying to help me. And it's his way of showing his pride towards me, right? However, I was not receiving it, and I was looking at it as, if you don't tell me you're proud of me, it doesn't count. That was sort of my way of looking at it. So that was a huge breakthrough for me, right? I came back, and then I talked to him about this, right? And I asked him, I just need you to tell me you're proud of me. And then he tells me he's proud of me. And it doesn't work. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like I got what I was searching for. I was like, what the heck? I thought this was what I really needed, and now that I receive it, like, it doesn't do anything for me. And on this most recent retreat, again, this is not something that just pops up, right? This is like days of introspection and activities that sort of make you just connected to yourself. So out in nature, right? There's a whole lot put in here, but sort of the culmination of what I got out of this retreat was, fundamentally, I'm not proud of myself. I don't truly value myself. And it's almost like I've taken this stance of, I want to be humble. I don't want to be arrogant. I want to have humility. But what I've actually been doing is, if I'm at this level in my life, being proud is like thinking that you're more than what you are, right? Thinking that you're greater than who you are. But instead, I wasn't accepting where I was at. I was putting myself below that, right? So, like, my story is actually quite unique, right? I bought rental properties from the age of 18. Now, like one of my most recent videos, I became a millionaire at 25. When people tell me, you're doing a great job, you've done something amazing, you are inspiring, right? When people tell me that, I listen to it, but I don't hear it. Nothing sinks in, and I've so far not accepted it, because fundamentally I felt that I am not, like, I don't believe that's who I am. I don't believe that this is what I've done. It's so hard to fully like conceptualize, because practically I did accomplish those things. Those, like, I can say that those are what I've done in my life. But how I feel about myself as a person doesn't reflect that, right? I don't give myself the credit that other people do. And then it kind of tied back, because I was desperately seeking this feeling of fulfillment and recognition, right, from others, and especially from my dad. And then when I receive it, I'm not, like, I don't feel good. And it just clicked that, wait a second, if I don't believe that is who I am as a person, no matter how many times other people tell me that you're doing a great job, you're amazing, you're successful, you're whatever, it's never gonna sink in. And yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from this trip, to just really accept on a fundamental level that I am an incredible person. I've done so many things. I've worked so hard. I've pushed so many boundaries in my life until this point, and just really accept that and connect to that and allow myself to receive the recognition from others when they give it to me. And the coolest part about this is now I don't need it as much. I don't need someone to tell me I'm doing a good job, because on a core level, I'm starting to feel that about myself. So now if my dad doesn't tell me he's proud of me, that's okay. And if he does tell me he's proud of me, now I'll actually receive it and I'll be like, that's awesome, right? So yeah, that was the key takeaway from this retreat. And what I've come to realize over the last few times I've gone away is I receive from these retreats like what I'm able to. So this is not something I could have got from the first retreat, but I got some piece of realization, some piece of insight. And then each time after that, it just builds on itself, right? Like the last time, realizing my dad was proud of me was this big realization, but now it's like we've gone even deeper and it's just like, just cracked open, right? Yeah, and
so where do you think that feeling of you're not proud of yourself came from? Was it growing up?
yeah, so this was a big part of the retreat, how we got to that realization. So for me, a key time in my childhood was probably around the age of 12 when our family moved to Canada. And I felt out of place. I didn't feel like I fit in. English is my first language, and literally I couldn't understand the way people spoke English in Canada when I first arrived. Just a little bit of an accent and a little bit of a speed at which people spoke I wasn't familiar with, so I literally felt like I couldn't understand what people are saying. And it didn't last for long, right? A couple of months in, or probably a year or two in, like I got it, but the feeling I was left with was like I'm out of place. And somewhere along the way, in my childhood, I had this feeling of like worthlessness and almost a feeling that I didn't deserve to be loved. So even though my parents loved me, like I almost felt like I didn't deserve to receive that love from my parents. And that's like a painful memory to have. And what I realized afterwards is I buried that deep inside. I didn't want that to come out. I didn't want to feel that emotion. It was too painful, right? So I like sealed it off, buried it off, and in a way, I almost started to live my life based on logic instead of emotion. Right? It's like when you suppress one emotion, you don't get to just choose the bad emotion. You suppress all emotion at some level, right? And then my mind just geared towards like being more analytical and more like logical, right? And to a certain degree, it helped, right? Investing in real estate is kind of a logical move, right? There's some analysis involved, but the feeling of fulfillment doesn't come through logic, right? That feeling of like, I'm doing a great job, I'm making a difference, right? I'm making an impact. So yeah, that was part of the process. And the way that these retreats are structured, so my coach, Ben, he runs them, and he has some exercises, and he's also deeply insightful. So like one part of it is, I should backtrack here for a second. One of the hardest part about personal growth is our blind spots. And if you know what a blind spot is, it's you think you are a certain way. Everyone who knows you closely doesn't agree. They think you're some other way, but it's so hard for us to see that other perspective. And exactly what I just described about, I didn't believe that I was doing a good job. I didn't believe that I was amazing. But somehow within my life, the people around me were all saying the same thing. They saw it, right? They saw that I had something in me, that I was just making progress at a level that it didn't seem to make sense. But I couldn't see that. And if someone were to just tell me that I am doing a good job, it doesn't click, right? That's not, just hearing it doesn't change the way I feel. It doesn't allow me to see that. So part of how these retreats help in terms of opening up our ability to see those blind spots is like, the group is a huge help, right? So we go in these groups of like 12, maybe even 15 people. All of us, they're willing to discover ourselves, open ourselves up, and just examine who we are as people, and just to go deep. And by being in that atmosphere, when, for example, one person says something and then the whole group kind of nods in agreement, they're like, yeah, that, like, we see what that guy's saying about you. And then if you're the one sort of on the hot seat where it's your turn to speak, or we kind of go in a circle, right? So that's how it works. And then when you start to hear something that you don't, like, it's your blind spot, so you don't, like, you can't connect to that, but then you see the whole group sort of connect that this is who you are, or this is what people see in you that you don't see. It opens the doorway just like a crack, right? You still need to be the one to take initiative to see that, but the whole retreat, the whole atmosphere, everything about it just helps to create a few days that this is the only focus, right? Because it's hard in our daily life to do this, right? Because we're just busy working, right? Running a business, investing in real estate, right? Being with our family, taking care of our kids. Like, there's so many things we're always doing, but here's a space of like, let's just take a couple of days away, right? Like, so even for me, I have a 4-month-old child and I'm leaving for 4 days, right? Or 5 days. And then there's a certain, like, there are a few inner challenges you go through to even get there, right? Part of it is like, I don't want to leave my wife alone with our kid, right? I don't want to, like, yeah, there's just challenges, right? Practically and also on an internal emotional level.
So when you were growing up, like, your dad, maybe not saying he was proud of you or anything like that, but yeah, he kind of went out and said things that you knew that he said, but I still didn't feel like it was in you. How did you come to the realization that it was your inner problem and not, feeling different when somebody says they're proud of you or anything like that? Like, how did you kind of just now come to that realization of, okay, it's because I'm not proud of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And then how did you fix that?
So it came after the fact. Like, I didn't even know that this was a problem I had to fix. I didn't know this was it's literally a blind spot. Like, I didn't know. I thought I was doing the right thing by being humble, by putting myself down, by not being arrogant or prideful. That was my perception of myself. And then the first realization was, my dad is proud of me. Then that was a shocker because I didn't feel that, but then that was also another blind spot. But now, okay, he is proud of me.
How did you feel, like, how did you come to that my dad is proud of me?
Again, it was during that retreat, right? That atmosphere, those discussions. Yeah.
Was it like a click moment? Or?
It was definitely that. Like, there wasn't anything someone said to me or there wasn't a specific, like, because of this I realized it, but it was the culmination of, on that retreat, we went to like these beautiful nature scenes, right? We went like sun gazing, if you've ever heard of that, which is you go right at the beginning of the sunrise and you look directly at the sun, and you're able to do that for the first few minutes of sunrise. After which you'll go blind if you do that. So it's like, you gotta be careful. But we went to this local there who like taught us about it. And we had those discussions, those introspective times. And then after sort of, and it wasn't right away either. it was after a couple of days. So even that retreat was about 2.5, 3 days. So like in the middle, closer to the end, that's when it just clicked. And it was like an emotional moment. Like I was bawling my eyes out, crying, because I wanted the feeling of my dad is proud of me for the longest time. And it's like this yearning that I felt was never fulfilled, right? Like I just never felt that he was proud of me. And then just to have it click that he is proud of me, to me at that moment was just, yeah, it just released this flood of emotions of like, almost this weight I've been carrying, right? Because it's like, I want my dad to be proud of me. Like I just want it, right? I feel I need it. And yeah. And like, so again, going back, you get out of it what you're ready to receive. So at that moment, that was probably the biggest thing I could have received, right? That knowing that my dad is proud of me. And then almost a year later now, realizing that I'm not proud of myself and how that's affecting my relationship with my dad, my relationship with those around me, because I can never fully receive what they want to give me, right? I can never receive, compliments. Like on a certain level, it's like I can't almost receive love, right? If someone wants to show me love by like telling me I'm doing a good job or telling me they're proud of me or telling me something, I'm like closed off to it, right? And yeah, just having that realization of I'm not proud of myself opened up like that, like the door just opened a crack to like a whole world of like what's available, right? Because actually I haven't talked to my dad since I came back from this retreat. It's only been like 2 days, but I'm almost excited to see what's there in that relationship, because on a certain level, this expectation of I want him to be proud of me, and then feeling like I wasn't receiving it, without a doubt has put some barrier in our ability to be connected, right? Because it's like this constant need of wanting something from a person and then them not being able to fulfill it, right? Versus now it's like, I actually don't need it because I'm content with myself. I'm proud of myself, but if he's willing to show it to me, I can accept it, and I can accept it in all its forms. It doesn't need to be him telling me he's proud of me. It can be like, one of the things that annoyed me the most was when he would tell someone in front of me that he was proud of me, but he would tell it to them instead of telling it to me. And I was like, why can't he just tell it to me, right? Why are you telling it to that other person? But now I realize that's just him showing his pride to me in his way. He wants to share it with someone else, right? And now me not needing it from him, I can just accept it in all its forms.
So, looking forward to the future, where do you see you and your dad's relationship in that perspective changing?
Yeah, I don't know, right? It's almost like there's now an opportunity for us to build a relationship without so much expectation, at least from my side, right? Like I'm not trying to get something from him. I can just almost be with him and just be present, enjoy our conversations, enjoy our time together. And yeah, I'm looking forward to almost like starting from scratch and just rebuilding our relationship, right? Because yeah, we actually fight a lot. And it's always over the stupidest things. It's never a serious fight, right? And that's almost the sign that it's not about what we're fighting about. Like, for example, for me, how hard is it as a son to tell your father, I want you to be proud of me. I want you to show recognition. It's not easy to say that. We would almost rather die than say that, right? And just do anything else. We'd rather fight. We'd rather do anything. But on a certain level, me fighting with my dad is me like trying to show him that something is not like I'm looking for something and I'm not getting it, right? And now it's like I come to the relationship, I come to the conversation on a different level, right? I'm coming to the table without expectation, without this need, and now I can, it's almost like a fresh start to a certain degree, and it's very freeing. There's like this feeling of like this massive weight on my shoulder that's been just like lifted, right? So yeah, for any of you watching, if any of this message resonates with you, I highly recommend, on some level, take a retreat. Whether it's you just taking a few days and you go away just fully by yourself, not with your family, not with your friends, but just having some time by yourself to truly reflect. And the best would be if you can go to a retreat where there's some kind of structure around it, like the one that my coach Ben runs. And these are, I would say, a lot better, just because the whole environment and atmosphere is created around allowing each of us to go deep. And then the discussions we have around that are so focused, and it really helps to have someone like Ben who's super intuitive and self-aware to be able to guide our thoughts, right? So when we're having these like discussions or sharings around the stuff that are deeply personal, and these thoughts that we've repeated in our minds over and over again, to have someone help point us in like the right direction. Hey, let's just make a little shift here. Consider this instead of what we've always been considering. So yeah, I highly recommend, if any of you watching are interested, I would just look up my coach Ben Osterveld. We can put maybe a link in the description. He has a Facebook. He has a couple of Facebook groups, or even if you add him on Facebook and just follow some of his stuff, he's very insightful, and yeah, just the coaching I've received through these retreats has been literally life-changing. Like, my business has been helped on multiple levels, and things have been really good over the last few years, but that in combination with like being connected to myself, having real conversations with the people in my life, and just it, honestly, like one of my deepest fears is to be that story of a successful man who is divorced, whose kids have no relationship with him, whose family is estranged to him. That's like, on a core level, one of my deepest fears, because that just sounds terrible. To me, I would just give everything up versus be that, right? I would, like, the relationships in my life are far more valuable than the success that I've had. But going through this process, it's become clear that I can have both. I can have amazing, deep relationships in my life, and I can have a thriving business. And I can have both of that work together. And it's been very liberating.
So what we do is we tear down those goals and find out what the heck you want. How we do that is through retreats, through some of the coaching I do. We get you really in touch with your emotions, like your relationship with fear, the emotions you're avoiding. If you're avoiding emotions, you're avoiding a hell of a lot of things in life. Try to fix ourselves you can only go so far with that. And then you have to start living. Because if we're just always trying to eliminate it or fix it, it doesn't actually, it gets a little distorted, right? Sometimes you just want to grow, but the reality is you got to change your soil, you got to pick some weeds. Your past still creates your future. Who you're with, a lot of times, is magnetically connected to how much you believe in yourself, what you think you deserve. For all of you, fearlessly, if you want to inspire people, you be yourself. I do it all the time now. The mission is to build a life you love. So let me introduce you to you. You might not like what you see, but at the end, I promise you, you'll love and you'll love what you do. You'll love who you're with, and you'll love the life you live.